Michelle D.I., Mrs. Divine Intervention herself. To all my helper bees out there, you know who you are. Those that are always helping everyone else and neglecting yourself. Yes, boo, look in the mirror. I'm talking to you. Here to let you know God has not forgotten about you. I've been sent on divine assignment. It's time for reflections choosing me guilt free. That means 30 minutes for your mind, your body, spirit, and emotions. And don't act like you don't have time. You have time for everyone and everything else. Sit back and relax because if you're here, that means this show is for you or it's for someone you know. But most likely, it's for both of y'all. Deep breaths, love. Let's go. Hey family, hey family, hey family. It is your girl live in the studio, Michelle Allen Franklin. Yep, I'm here. I am here. I'm here, y'all. I made it. It is your girl, Michelle Allen Franklin. Yes, Mrs. Michelle D.I. Why? You know, boo, for divine intervention, because there are no coincidences in this world. Only God's divine intervention in our lives. And Mrs. Community Builder, why? Because you know your girl's going to give you the good information, boo, the things you need for your mind, your body, your spirit, and your emotion. And what was playing was a previous episode with one of my favorite people, you heard me say it, Mr. Isaac Belota. Yes, he had an event. Just want to give him a shout out. His event was successful. And just thank you for all the people that came out and supported him in his event. It was amazing. It was amazing. Isaac's in that episode, you heard it before. He talked about just stepping out on faith, having a vision, and looking at just a portrait and getting inspired. And so we are in 2026, family. It is Monday. And what's today? Monday. It's February the 9th, y'all. It is February the 9th. I'm rushing the month. It's February the 2nd. It is February the 2nd. I'm rushing the month. And we're starting something new. You know how your girl do. We're starting something new. We are in 2026. We are talking this year about relationships and purpose. Yes, relationships and purpose. And so what is something that gets in the way of purpose? One of the biggest things that has gotten in the way of purpose for me is fear. And so we're going to talk about it today. My baby girl Marley is in the studio with me. Hey, girl.
Hi, y'all. I'm back.
Somebody said, what happened? Why Marley's not in school? Well, Cumberland, they had a gas leak. They had a gas leak. So we got a message last night that they would not have school today. So we are praying for Cumberland. Shout out to Cumberland and administration. Baby, that text message, push that they have going on right now, I'm not mad at them. I'm not mad at them at all. Using the good technology to get the messages out, because Lord knows I would not have seen an email last night. So I'm grateful.
Just so happen to be doing homework.
Got that good text message push. And so just grateful that everyone is safe. And so just praying for that situation with everything. So like I said, we are talking about fear today. I said, Marley, you want to come to the radio with me tomorrow? Girl, you about to be my most visited guest here on the show.
Yeah.
You're so funny, girl. So, like I said, this year we are talking about fear, because fear is one of those things that will hold you hostage. If you've been following your girl, you know I talk about just your mind, your body, your spirit, and your emotions. And it is a self-reflections. It's reflections choosing me guilt free. And so this is a self-mastery the self-mastery work that we're doing. It is so easy, I think, to look at someone else and talk about what they're doing, what they're not doing, what they need to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard, honey, to look at yourself and make a very intentional decision that you need to change. Lord, I want to change. Lord, in my spirit of David, change my heart, Lord. Right? Create in me a clean heart, renew a right spirit. It is so easy to look at someone else, but can we look at us? That is what Reflections Choosing Me Guilt Free is all about. And so, like I said, we are going to be talking about fear. And y'all know discipline is the word of the year because it takes discipline to follow through. Right. It's almost like, last year I was joking about the New Year's resolutions, but it takes discipline to follow through. It takes discipline to look at yourself and know that you have some things that you want to change. And it is not, let's be clear, it is not self bashing. Right. It is not negative talk. It is looking at yourself. Me and Marley talk all the time about constructive criticism.
Yeah.
What do I say, Marley, about constructive criticism? What is that?
Well, in my opinion, criticism sounds very similar to constructive criticism, except constructive criticism is helping you build on stuff, saying you should do this better in this way. It's saying, hey, if you do this, it may help.
It may help.
Rather than criticism is just saying, that's bad.
Right.
That's it.
That's right. And so I always tell Marley, you can't, if you don't have someone to come and say, hey, babe, you're doing this. Let me help you to do this. Or you're doing this. Let's just try to do it this way. Or you've been doing this the wrong way this long time. Or people that say, I've always done it like this. What's wrong? Just because you've always done it that way does not mean that it's right. And someone that is coming with constructive criticism to say, hey, let's rebuild that. Let's work on that. But for you to do that to yourself, it's loving. That is love. When someone comes and says I'm doing something wrong, or, I've repeated the same behaviors, that's love to me, and that's what I try to say to Marley, because when you're young, this is one thing I've learned in just studying in psychology, and just going all the way back to, these whispers that you hear in your mind. You can hear all of this negative criticism, and it goes all the way back to childhood. And a lot of times those demonic spirits, I feel like, when it's just completely telling you, you're nasty, you're mean, you can't do this. If you were always criticized about something, and that may be a trigger for you. And that's a trigger for a lot of people. A lot of people don't know how to receive information. And so it is knowing that having someone to tell you something out of love, that's love, and what that feels like, and instead of the other thing. And so we're going to go here today. And so again, we're starting, I said this, fear can be a good and a bad thing. I think that's the biggest thing for people to understand and take away. Fear could be a good and a bad emotion, right? On the flip side, fear is one of those things that it seems like I've had in a relationship with fear for a long time. It has held me hostage. It has kept me from doing various things, especially when it comes down to relationships. You've heard me talk about this before. I've been married. I was married fresh out of high school. Messing around with that love stuff. In love, that teenage love. That's the good stuff. That is the good stuff. That teenage, that young love. Yes.
That can't sleep love.
That can't sleep love. Gotta be with them. Gotta have it, love. I love you. I love you. I love you. All the time. Just got to be around you. Got to be around you. I don't know what to do with myself type of love. Just have you acting crazy. So that young love, honey. And so was married at 18. I turned 95, was a year for me. Had my oldest daughter April the 27th, turned 18, May the 14th, graduated from high school.
Shout
Two
out,
weeks.
shout out to Sean.
Look, shout out to my baby girl, Sean. I know that's right. Yes. That was my whole meaning and purpose for life, honey. That girl gave me some inspiration and motivation. Yes. February, no, May, the 2 weeks later, May 26th, I think it was, graduated from high school. And then July the 7th, 1995, your girl was married. Married. Just who married? We'll go into that another time. But 2 years later, my husband at that period of time came home and said he didn't want to be married anymore. And, some people could look at that as a bad thing. I don't. Please don't think that man did me a favor. He did what I feel like. He took the carriage and did what I feel like most men won't do, and that is just be honest, right? And so that, of course, that's not how I looked at it back then. I was hurt and all of the things, but what it did at that period of time is that it kept me from relationship. I said, "Oh, I'm never doing this again." I'm never doing this again. And so when I started this journey with fear and kind of looking at when did fear begin in my life, I thought that was the beginning of it, of being in a relationship and thinking, you've given your heart, you trying to believe and do and work through these situations, and someone comes along and kind of breaks your heart. And so for me, I was like, I'm never doing that again. We're going to move on. And I feel like, but when I took a very intentional look at it, it went all the way back to my childhood, actually. And so fear can control your life. And let me just say this really quickly. Your girl has a podcast. The very first time I talked about fear, it is under the demonic entity series. It is Reflections Choosing Me Guilt Free. That's Reflection CMGF. That was my first time sharing very intimate details about how fear has played a role in my life. And it's a quick little show. It's only about 30 minutes, but it was very powerful. It was very transparent. It talked about the different types of fear and how fear shows up in our lives. Today, we are breaking up with fear and talking about why it has to move on, why it has to go. And so February is our relationship month. February is about relationships. And today we're starting with one that I feel like nobody really talks about. So fear and I, like I said, have been together for a long time, longer than some marriages. I'm 48 years old, longer than some friendships. And understanding that it wasn't toxic at first. I was saying how fear shows up, right? It's not toxic at first. Fear shows up. It shows up for you when you need protection. It showed up for me when I needed protection. But somewhere along the way, I feel like fear stopped protecting me and it started leading my life.
Yeah. Sometimes fear is survival, but then sometimes you get in a place where you don't need to be in constant survival mode, and yet fear is still going.
That's right. That's exactly right. And one of the biggest things we talked about last year was how stress is the number one silent killer, right? And so getting a hold of the stress in your life, because it does release cortisol, which is the a negative hormone that is in your body. And if it's in your body for, longer periods of time, cortisol is what releases in the fight or flight. It's so we need it, right? We need fear. That's what makes you run when you hear a gun or you hear something that scares you, right? You want that cortisol to kick in because that's what makes you, wait a minute, we ain't asking no questions. We got to go, right? So knowing that fear has a reason, and church folk, we don't say enough about this, but fear usually shows up when we need it, when a need hasn't been met. That's how it kind of, fear shows up when a need hasn't been met. This is taking it back to childhood. So we're going back to a psychology class. We learned about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Marlene. I don't know if y'all have talked about that yet. You'll probably get it in college.
I never heard of that.
It's all good, girl. We're going to learn today. So psychology talks about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but in the scripture, it confirms when God repeatedly is saying, I know what you need. So like you said, instead of allowing fear, right, that kicked in because there wasn't a safety net there or something that came along, we don't allow God to guide that fear. So fear is often a survival response, like you said, that stayed around too long. And when survival stays too long, it becomes a stronghold. In Psalms 23:1, it says, the Lord is our shepherd. I shall not want. If God says you shall not want, and fear is lying around, what is that? That means that you're staying kind of in this state of lack. So at the bottom of Maslow's pyramid is the basic needs. That's food, rest, stability. Survival of fear says, if I stop worrying, something bad will happen. That's what's running in the back of your subconscious mind. It's just playing in the background. Anxiety. That's the fear, keeps you tired, keeps you tense, always preparing for a disaster. Mm-hmm. Always. And some of us didn't learn that fear. It was like inherited. If you watch me always, running around, oh my goodness, what if this happened? Oh, what about this? What about this? Or always worried and anxious about something. If you watch your parents, what you say, Marley?
Yeah, not many people realize that your children are watching.
Your children are watching.
They're watching the people around you. That's how we learn to speak, how we learn to act, what's socially acceptable.
Exactly.
If we see y'all running, if we see y'all yelling,
mm-hmm.
if we see y'all acting a certain way, we'll copy it.
Definitely. And so we are releasing that. I want you to say today that I release the belief that rest is unsafe. Because somewhere in our spirits, we're going. I call it the going and being and doing. You feel like you got to go, you got to fix, you got to do, and in the subconscious mind of that, and if you're just really being clear about it, that really means you're not trusting God for what you need, because you're feeling like you have to fix it and you have to do all the things, which is not where he wants us to be, right? You have to handle everything. I'm talking to my people out there that feel like you got to control everything. You have to fix everything, right? The next little level, that's your safety net. When safety is threatened, fear doesn't panic. It just plans. Like I said, that over planning. So controlling fear sounds like when you're controlling everything, it sounds like, oh, you're being mature, you're being responsible. Let me just do it. Let me just fix it. Let me just go. Let me just, right? Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you're being responsible and spiritual and all the things underneath, but some of us don't trust people. Mm-hmm. Some of us don't trust God. Mm-hmm. Fear, honey, is the backup plan. And Exodus 14:14 says the Lord will fight for you. Mm-hmm. It says you only need to be still. What is that? Be still.
Peace, be still. Peace, was still. Peace.
Little Medea. That's my Medea lover over here. We love us some Medea. Yes, honey. We don't know how to be still. That's taking it into your own hands, right? Medea was carrying around a gun, baby, because she going to take it into, baby, Medea going to fix it. Is she not? She going to fix it. So releasing the need to control. So I want to challenge everyone this week. I want you to, one small area in your life this week, I want you to just release the need to control just one thing. And I'm going to share a little thing with me, because since Marley is here with us, right? Parents, we do this. Even with our adult children, I found myself doing this. My oldest is 30, she'll be 31 in a couple of months. And you find yourself, with adult children, you're trying to tell them how to do this and that. And because we're in our minds, we thinking we're protecting you guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're feeling like we can see the whole picture, and you're looking at it from a tunnel vision. We're going off of experience. We're going off of fear. Right? It really is fear. I don't want my baby to run into that wall. I know it's a wall coming. I don't want them to stump their toe on that thing. I don't want them to cluck their head.
Mm.
Right? But if you don't let the baby cluck their head, if you don't let them fall, how their legs going to get stronger? How they going to learn to walk? How are they going to run?
How are they going to learn not to run into a wall in the first place?
Exactly. Right? So it is, again, releasing control in one small area this week. Just pick one thing that or even you might find yourself in the middle of it. I just want you to take a breath. Woosah that thing. Wait a minute. Because, again, when the subconscious mind is controlling you, it's not like you even realize that you're doing these things. And so it is coming to the point of you have to start being conscious. Why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Why am I doing that? Why am I responding like that? When I talk about when I first realized that my dad had anxiety, right? When I was younger, I used to, when I would get ready to go somewhere, like travel out of town, and I would call my dad and I'd be like, okay, Dad, I'm going to go to Houston this weekend. And my dad would be like, why you got to go there? Why you got to do that? When you coming back? What you going to do? Like it was all these questions, right? And when you're in your 20s, you just know you grown. You grown, right? So you don't want to answer all those questions like, dang, Dad, like, what's the big deal? Like, what are you talking about? And I would leave, my mom used to drive from Baltimore to Texas, a lot of the summers. And so I was used to driving long distances. I was used to just jumping in the car. We always drove at night. So I didn't see the big deal about driving at night. And I didn't understand that really did translate into, I love you. I don't want anything to happen to you. I miss you. That was really the translation. That was fear controlling that anxiety that was coming on him. That really was fear. Baby girl, I want you to be safe. Mm-hmm. Why you have to drive at night? Why you can't go through the day? When you coming back? I want you to be here safe with me. You in here, Tyler, I could get to you. Right? If you in Houston, I don't know, if something's gonna happen along those roads and all. I didn't hear it then. Right? Mm. I hear it very clearly now that was fear. He didn't know how to say, babe, I'm scared. Right? The parents, that generation, like y'all don't have that language. They just say, I'm scared. I don't even think that this was before cell phones, right? He couldn't just call me and say, hey, I had to wait till I got there, get to a payphone and call and say, hey, Dad, I'm safe. I'm here. But what happened in that 3 hour, if something happened in that 3 hour ride? And so that is the big thing, right? We are identifying fear so that it's not so much that it overwhelms us. So we're getting personal. We have to get personal with fear. You got to look at fear. I like, hey, it's a person. Like you in a whole relationship. You in a whole relationship with fear. So I even identifying that this week, recognizing why are you responding, right? The way that you're responding. Fear comes from love that was conditional sometimes. Like if you had somebody that was in your life, especially when you were younger, that said, I'm only going to talk to you right if you do XYZ. I'm only going to treat you right if you do XYZ. If you do what I say, then I love you. If you don't, then forget you.
That ain't love.
And that's not love, right? But if you had a parent that was like that, if you had a relationship that was like that, right? Then that taught you, wait a minute, let me let me respond really, really quickly. Let me do this. Let me do that. Let me do this. And you and I, Marley, have had this conversation in the last week, right? I've said to you, hey, when I ask you to do something, you said, Mama, but you're going to yell at me if I don't do what you,
if I don't do it right.
If you don't do it right, if you don't. And I said, babe, I'm not yelling at you because I'm angry, right? I'm yelling, one, because I probably asked you to do it 100,000 times and I'm just tired of asking you to do it again, right? That's just a parent-child thing. I said, you're a teenager. That's what teenagers do. That's not, I'm not yelling at you because I'm mad at you or anything like that. And so, but that was a lesson for me too. I have to watch what I'm saying and how I say it. That's self-inventory. That's self-reflection. Doesn't mean that she doesn't need to do what she need to do or whatever, but
it's just definitely how you say it.
It's how you say it.
The psychology of it.
The psychology of it. Understanding that it is planting those seeds, and it's very subconscious. So the parent, like, you don't realize that that's what you're doing, but you don't want your children to be afraid of you to the extent that they are making mistakes. Even at work and in work situations. I had a doctor one time. It seemed like every time he came in the door, it was like the Tasmanian devil was there, and the workers were making more mistakes because when he came in, they were so afraid. And so you don't want people shrinking. You don't want them not being who they are called to be because they're so afraid. You don't want to be the one shrinking because you are allowing fear to guide your footsteps.
It's part of that thing is too, when parents, when you teach your kids, don't associate negative feelings such as fear and anger with something positive, like cleaning up or eating and stuff like that, because then they'll carry that into adulthood and they'll feel negative feelings when they just doing something regular, doing something positive, and they won't want to feel like they want to do it.
Yep. That is all psychology. Oh, whose child is that? That's my girl over there. She's smart. And is. And so here we go, family, as we wrap up. Fear, I understand why you showed up, but you can't come home in this next chapter with me. Say it again for the people in the back. I said, fear. This is what you're doing because y'all in a relationship and y'all got to break up. I understand why you showed up, but you can't come into this next chapter.
Hit the road, Jack.
Yes, with me. Okay. So acknowledging the fear, but understanding and honoring your story, but stepping out into freedom. So this month, we're not just talking about relationships, fam. We're healing our relationships with ourselves. All right, family.
Bye, everyone.
See you next week.
March 2nd,
this has been another divine intervention. Thank you for tuning in to Reflections, Choosing Me Get Free with your girl, Miss Michelle D.I. Every week, we will have the uncomfortable but necessary conversations as it relates to your mind, your body, your spirit, and emotions. You've suffered long enough. It's time to break free. So join me every Monday at 1 p.m. right here on KGLD Radio, where you can fill your spirit with gospel all day long. See you next week.